Thanks for staying with Benchmark. In this, the concluding segment of our show, we start off with Dushan Souza of WNS Global Services, who talks about Sri Lanka's potential in the BPO arena.
That's one of our bigger challenges, the way I see it. Because the government, the numbers we talk about, the big businesses in the US. So if you don't attract the US work into Sri Lanka, hitting those numbers is a challenge, because otherwise you're restricted to maybe UK and Australia and English-speaking countries. So the US work is vital if you're looking at this type of growth and hit $1 billion in 2-3 years down the road, which really tantamounts to about 75,000 people working in the industry. So so right now I think the night shift is a challenge because the country itself doesn't have a night culture. For example, you go after 11 o'clock, even the traffic lights are not working. They are going on the amber, blink. So the whole night thing is not there even outside the office. So I think before we talk about the people's culture, the country itself must have a sort of a night culture happening with restaurants open, some transportation, and there should be a buzz, whether it's 11 p.m. or 2 a.m. There should be some buzz in the city. So when it comes to people, then people will automatically fit into that night culture that is already set up.
On the subject of skills, talent, literacy rates and our work ethic when compared to other BPO destinations, he had this to say.
These challenges are there, but we as organizations, we have huge training programs that are behind systems. So we don't put people out there without going through a proper induction, probably anything up to 1 month. And then there's continuous training of different types of things, the right ethics, work ethics, customer service, delivery, the whole works. So that's at an organizational point, but it will be nice to get students coming through, or entry, the entry-level candidates coming through with some of it behind them. So it's all a case of our education system. I think the education system has to change to convert these people into team players. I think we're a very competitive nation, so that has its upside and downside. I think the whole education system must change, reduce the competitiveness a little bit, make it a very team-based studying program. Like if you're in the university, it's mandatory you do projects, or your final year projects, you have 4 or 5 people in the group. You never do these things alone, right? So these are all teachings that come through. So I think it will come if the education system changes, and people like SEMA and others inculcate these values into their students, what to expect when they go out, how important it is to deliver, work from 8 to 8 if that is your working hours. That comes first, job comes first, build a career for yourself, learn all the techniques. So I think it's an education thing.
The Group Managing Director of Sunshine Holdings, Vish Govindasamy, talked to us in September and gave us his views on streamlining Sri Lanka's tax system.
After a long time, yes, we saw some consolidation and changes in the tax laws of this country. But yes, it is still complicated. It's not easy for somebody to understand this tax system, especially in the import tax. For import, you see there is PAL, there is cess, there is duty, etc. A lot of that can be combined into one if necessary. Even in the individual taxes, there are way too many slabs for individual. The idea should be to make sure every citizen of this country is a tax-paying citizen. And to do that, it has to be much easier for the person to understand and willing to pay the tax. Today's tax forms are very complicated. Even you need accountants to fill tax forms for you. If you look at the much developed countries, tax forms are done by individuals and now even online. And that's the way you must, that's at least the place to get to in the future.
He next lets us know about the cost of borrowing and the impact this would have on our future generations.
Some of these borrowings have come at a cost of peace. We have fought a long and hard war for over 30 years, and that needed the type of borrowing to get to where we are. Okay, we have the peace now. Now we need to put plans in action. We have to probably borrow for the next 5-10 years. But more importantly than borrowing, what is important is a method to pay it back. And that will ease off the generations forward. I think that's what the future generation need to hear. How do we plan to pay our national debt? That's the issue. Borrowing is never the issue, as long as we have a solid plan to pay it back.
And finally, we have Suresh Shah, CEO of Lion Brewery, to give us his views on direct versus indirect taxes.
Any tax system will have both direct and indirect. It's a question of what percentage and how do you balance it off. Pros and cons to both. I mean, direct taxes work more on the affordability principle. So the people who earn a greater amount of income pay a greater tax. The problem with that system is then you are dependent on higher tax rates, and the minute you increase your tax rates, there is then evasion is one, and the other thing is that it demotivates people from producing more profit. You know, why be more profitable if 60% of that, for example, is going somewhere else? In the case of the indirect taxes, is a problem. The problem really is that everyone, irrespective of level of income, has to pay the same amount of taxation. So it's a fine balance, and I think depending on different economies, your strategy might be a little bit different. But I think fundamentally you got to live with both. From a very public perspective, you would say that direct taxation is a better system. But I think from a reality perspective, when a country needs tax revenue, I think generally the dependence is more on indirect taxation.
That was a selection of interviews that we've aired on Benchmark throughout 2011. And that also wraps up our Best of Bench special and our Christmas program. So for those of you celebrating Christmas, have a blessed one. And for everyone else, happy holidays. We'll see you again in a brand new year.